Good morning, Facebook and YouTube. I simulcast, and I don't know why when I get on here, I always say good morning, Facebook, when this goes YouTube as well. So we'll come up on a couple of things here. Gosh, get my lighting. I've got to come up with another lighting situation. I will. Just be patient with me. Till then, deal with this, okay? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh, wait a minute. I can change this. Hold on with me, and I'm going to see if I can get this right. I think I can. I think I'm just not applying the right things here. There we go. How's that? Okay. All right, that's better. You'll notice the title of this Saturday morning's live stream is cults. And I do know a thing or two about cults. And I know a lot about cults. Today there's a rally going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. President Trump is holding a rally there. But what beyond that is something else that just happened that needs to be addressed. And first of all, I had a little discussion with somebody about Trump, and they were going about Trump's haters or something like that, and I simply said, I live in a state. I can't speak about all over the country. I'm not saying that Trump is just totally adored everywhere, but and I know people. There are people that don't like Trump. That's true of every president we've ever had. But for the most part, I'm sorry, I'm trying to correct some of this. That's good. For the most part, Trump is adored in my part of the country, and I've seen it around the country, not just here. There's a very loud, very outspoken group, if you will, that I'm going to have to do something about this. Loyal, and I'll say very clearly, cultish following of this man. So you follow the history, and if you know cults, first of all, cults come about because they attract people who are totally so they feel like they're on the fringes. So Jim Jones' cult attracted people because he found this one group of people who he was a white guy, and he showed favoritism toward this group of people. He was charismatic. He said what they wanted to hear, and they were mostly black. You can go back and look at this. Here's this white preacher, and he had a almost not. I'm not going to say 100% African American, but majority African American following in his cult. Cults attract people that feel like they're on the fringes. They feel they're looking, they're seekers, and they become susceptible to someone that has a very strong message and can present that message in a way that just certain people find it attractive. Religion itself, to be very real, the entire religious thing, whatever it is, Christianity, Hindu, Muslim, it's all cult, because they're providing with words, and that's all they've got is words, a hope that people are looking for. It's like, oh, I like this message over here versus that message over there. Some people are balanced with their involvement in these cults, and not all of them clearly lead to some very bad things. But even Christianity, even Muslims, these cults lead to people doing things they wouldn't normally do, because it gets to be this us versus them mentality that we know something the world don't know. It's an esoteric thing, and we've got to share this message with the world, and we've got to save the world. We've got the keys to save the world, to save humanity. We've got the keys to eternity. Those kind of messages are what gets people wrapped up in these cults. Donald Trump, in his cult message, he came along during 8 years of a darker skinned man being president. Like Obama's politics, like what he did or not, it silently drove these people to hate, because number one, Obama was one of the most articulate, well-spoken presidents we've had in a long time. Very educated man, very smart guy. And I'm not justifying anything he did as president. I'm leaving at politics. I'm just looking at the man. He was the first dark-skinned man to be president of our nation. There were no scandals around his presidency. The biggest thing they came up with is he wore a tan khaki-colored suit one time or some crap like that. There were no women coming out of the closet accusing him of sexual misbehavior. There was, they really had to fish hard, and I'm not saying he was like none of them squeaky clean, but we're all human. But there wasn't any of these great scandals. The people that supported Trump, and some of the initial ones that supported Trump, were people that were white supremacists, were KKK, wrapped their arms around Trump. That in itself is very telling. When you have these fringe groups that find a politician that finally somebody we like, then you've got to question that. These groups that you would normally find most people condemning are able to identify a politician that they totally wrap their arms around. They're wearing his hats. They're promoting this guy, going to his rallies. Usually the people that are supporting Trump are usually the ones out protesting any and all politicians. So that kind of raises a flag. Now, that's not the tell-all, but that kind of it's like there's a big twist there that should draw our attention. We should look at that a little bit harder. But Trump was the quintessential. He is a complete reflection of this form of whiteness in the United States. The blonde hair, I don't know if he's got blue eyes, but he fits this image. He's all about money. He's all about success. He's all about power. He says these crass, ugly things that the people of his ilk think and sometimes won't say, and they just love it. When he get up there and call a woman a fat pig loser, they just, yeah, and that kind of stuff. At one point, you could say he embellishes, but with him, it's not embellishing. It's just out and out lying. The problem, and I've been alive since Eisenhower. I've seen presidents come and go, and none of them are perfect. They all have their pluses and their minuses. But throughout this, to have such a great part of our population, the way they are with President Trump, and I'm not using this. I'm just saying it's a cult-like behavior. I'm not saying Trump is bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying this is cult-like behavior. Because if you stand where I stand on social media or even in my neighborhood, around my neighbors, if I say anything that even tinges on criticizing Trump, that's the cardinal sin. That is, in other words, immediately, oh, you're one of them libtards. That's right. I never said I was a libtard. I don't, I've even been accused of being a Hillary lover. I don't like Hillary at all. I couldn't, I wouldn't even want to imagine having to look at Hillary's face for 4 years on the media all the time. Plus, in 2016, I saw how ineffective she was in presenting herself against Trump. She fell right. He manipulated that woman, and she fell right for it. So I certainly wouldn't take that as a very strong character trait. But anyway, if you criticize this man at any level, they will, slightly, yeah, I know he needs to tone it down. Yeah, I know he needs to do the Twitter thing, but, you know. Um, so the latest thing, two things happening here. Today is the 20th, by the way, of the month of June. And that kind of falls in line with something I'm going to talk about in a minute. But he does, this Juneteenth thing in Tulsa. He decides to hold his rally there, and then he gets educated about this Juneteenth thing, and he moves the date of his rally up to this date. So there was that problem, insensitivity at the least. And that's the way he rose, because nothing is given consideration to anybody except Trump. You follow the man, it's all about Trump. I often have told the story going back in the 80s of one of his bankrupt casinos in Jersey that had contracted with the rock group, the Rolling Stones, to come and play at the casino. And that as part of the agreement, he wanted the Rolling Stones to do a pre-concert news thing, the media, press. And the Rolling Stones came back and said, we'll gladly do that, but only if Trump is not in the room. The day came for that news conference, right? But when they were going to play it, and they were in this room with the news, the media's there, and Trump walks in, as he does. It's me. Isn't everybody happy to see me? It's Trump. Look at me. And immediately the Rolling Stones says, "Oh, we're out." Our agreement was Trump was not going to be here. So it took Trump's loyal servants to pull him away, and Trump is balking. This is my press conference. This is my press. They said, no, well, this is the agreement we made, blah, blah, blah. But that's Trump. It's all about him. Because if he had gotten up there, the Rolling Stones knew this. It wasn't going to be about the Rolling Stones. It was going to be about, I'm Donald Trump, and I got the Stones to play in my casino. And that's just the way he is. It's the way he's always been. He's a spoiled white kid, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And he's not that great with money. He's got a bachelor's degree in economics. All that aside. He took or had one of his staff or somebody, his wife, his kids, took a video of these two kids that you've probably seen before, and they are running toward each other and hugging. One kid's black, the other one's white. And they manipulated that to have the black kid running from the white kid. And then using that manipulated video to say something about CNN and fake news and that kind of stuff. That's part of it. Upset the dads. They had it pulled off of social media everywhere. They had it removed. Now we add to that this day. The numbers of the coronavirus cases have been increasing every day. It's still not, the curve has not been flattened. People are still sick. People are still dying. Some states are required the wearing of masks. Some counties in Alabama require you to wear a mask in public. But here's Trump, who, first of all, because it's all about Trump, was going to have a rally on the Juneteenth, which is a stemmed out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's the roots of this entire thing. So that would be in the midst of all the protesting, in the midst of everything going on in the country right now. He didn't give a shit about that. So out of pressure, he had to change it to June the 20th. And he doesn't give a shit about the 19,000 people that will be crammed in this building that holds 19,000 people. They certainly can't socially distance. It's been shown over and over and over that when people get together, even at a bar and a birthday party, these people walk away positive with coronavirus. Some have very mild symptoms, some get pretty ill, some get violently ill, and some die. But it's all about Trump. He's trying to downplay this whole thing. And this is and then his followers follow suit. They feel emboldened by this man. You can't criticize this man. I'm not saying everything he does as president I'm opposed to. I'm not saying every stance he takes politically I'm opposed to. He has said some things I totally and wholeheartedly agree with. He's done some things that I totally and wholeheartedly agree with. But he's a jerk. He's a piece of crap, and he has done some horrible things. See, when you put money, you put this one thing above everything else, then socially we're falling apart. As a nation, socially we're falling apart. Oh, the economy is good, but we hate each other. You can afford to buy that new car, you can afford to go in debt, but we fucking hate each other. So the white supremacists feel bolden to come out and taunt their white supremacist shit. And everybody points to those who bring these things out about Trump as the haters. I'm not the haters. Trump is the one that has emboldened the haters. The haters are the ones that won't allow people like myself to humanize this cult leader, Trump, because he's a cult leader. And you're a cult member if you can't stand to hear criticism about this man. You're just fucking cult member. I'm not criticizing because he's white. I'm not criticizing because he got blonde hair. I'm not criticizing because he came from New York. I'm criticizing him because he's a jerk. And just because he's a jerk does not mean he's totally rotten to the bone. It doesn't mean he's evil to the bone. It doesn't mean that he hasn't done anything good. It just means he's a fucking jerk. And I would rather not have that. I can't believe that anybody with kids wants to have that presented. You know, when it's the same group of people, and this is what I don't understand. When Bill Clinton was president, and he had his accusations of affairs, then he had the Monica Lewinsky thing, and I hate to bring up her name, but the same ilk of people that's supporting and they're now Trump cult members. We're talking about family values, and they don't, you know what, we don't want our kids to have to see this shit, you know, and stuff like that. Look what they're putting in front of their kids now. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? It's because it's a cult. You know, when you go through the news, and I don't care where you get your news from, if you go to one source for your news, you're fucking up. You need to get it balanced across the board. You don't just go to Fox or CNN, you go to all of them. And by going to all of them, you can get a feel as to the accuracy of whatever's going on. And if you're on this side over here that is a Trump cult member, and you can only see the things that support your views, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you are totally opposed to Trump and you can only see the things that support your views of the man, you are totally just fooling yourself as well. But if you balance it out, because I followed Trump a long time before he ever came close to running for president. I followed this man for a long time. I've had relatives in New York, years ago. It wasn't new to me. He wasn't just a name to me. I had distant family that had been to social gatherings with Mr. Trump years ago. So Trump wasn't something new. He wasn't something way off on my radar. He was a little bit closer on my radar than I guess with a lot of people. Plus, being a business person and being tuned in to marketing and so forth, I found Trump very fascinating. And I used to call myself the Donald Trump of wedding officials. I don't think that's negative. I'm calling myself the Donald Trump of wedding officials because it's like a self-promoting. That's what you do. My dad used to say, "He who tooteth not his own horn, the same shall not be toothed." So I've got to sell myself. To sell myself, I've got to brag about myself and about my abilities. Trump had the resources that honestly inherited that he could do this over the top. And that's why I used the reference I did. You've got to be like Donald Trump and you got to promote the hell out of yourself. That's it. I understand that. It's the same way on the internet. You need your name to pop up everywhere on the internet you can. And I knew during the 2016 election cycle, Trump did not care if the media and if you posted positive or negative things about him. As long as his name was out there, he was going to win. As long as his name stayed in there constantly, he was going to win. And that's the way I've always felt about it. You can't please everybody. Somebody's going to dislike you. Some people are going to hate you. Some people are not going to be able to stand your personality. Some people are not going to be able to stand your voice. Some people are not going to be able to stand your bald head. You just can't please everybody. So keeping that in mind, you want your name out there, even by those who dislike you. Promote me, put my name, because it proves my rankings. It gets my name out there. So keep it up. That's the way he viewed it. And of course, it would always give him a reason to get back in front of the camera because, well, what do you think about this, Mr. Trump? It gave reason for people to discuss him because it's like, ooh, they said this about him. There were all kind of stuff that negative came out about Trump. And he ate it up, not paying the photographer that took his wedding pictures, not paying contracts, all kind of dirt, all kind of stuff. He didn't care. He would speak up about it, most honestly, probably tweet about it, but it didn't matter because it kept it up there. Up until recently, he still tweets, but I think the tweeting has kind of changed and slowed down just a teeny bit. But earlier in the game, he would laugh. 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he would think some ridiculous shit to tweet out. And with that few words on this tweeter bullshit thing, he controlled the conversation of the world. He ate it up. He said, I'm going to give them something to talk about today. They're going to talk about me today. And that was it. The more outlandish shit he could put out there, he knew he was going to be in the news. So you look at his outlandish shit and the outlandish things he's done, and you compare that to these cults and how outlandish their claims were. Heaven's Gate, Applewhite. We didn't come here. These vessels are not our bodies. We're just occupying them temporarily. We came here, this was Applewhite's teachings. We came here in the early 70s and we occupied these because we had a message to share that you need to join and get to a higher level than human. And you can get to a higher level from human because the UFO's coming behind this comment. And we have to time this just right because when it gets over here, we got to make sure that we have on our uniforms and that we drink the Kool-Aid. It wasn't Kool-Aid, but get the point. So that we can immediately transport ourselves. You see what I'm saying? Outlandish. When you think about it, pretty goddamn outlandish. But I don't have to have 100% people following me. Trump didn't even get the majority of the popular vote. He just had to manipulate it to where it gave him the power he wanted. You don't have to win everybody every time to be successful at what you want to do. Heaven's Gate and Applewhite gained national notoriety. Their website is still up, heavensgate.com, to where even in death, he's better known in death than he was in life. Jim Jones of the Jonestown Massacre, well known in death. You may say, well, he's not around to enjoy that fame, if you want to call it fame. But who's to say? I mean, isn't the whole thing of Christianity about this afterlife? Don't all the ghost hunters and whatnot find themselves communicating with the dead? So the suggestion is with all this is that the dead can see what's going on Earth. So who knows? Jim Jones may be floating around in the other realm of whatever and thinking, oh, I did it, man. Not only did I get them people to commit the suicide, and the ones that didn't, I killed them, and they're still talking about me. They got documentaries about me. I'm well known down there now. If you look at the entire belief systems, all this shit, and look at all the ghost hunters, look at all the people communicating with the dead. Look very carefully at these people. You go in there, and so the whole belief is that it's out here. That they can see. If I can communicate, hey, my grandmother died, 1975. Let me just spirit box. Grandma, can you hear me? Are you there, Grandma? Or maybe the Ouija board. Do I have permission to talk to spirits? Somebody find my grandma. Or, all these devices, all these, Grandma, are you there? Can you talk to me? Was that your shadow I saw? The orb, was that you, Grandma? The orb? So we believe all this stuff. So if that's true to say, I mean, that's what this whole belief system is about. But anyway, cults. Yeah, I know a thing or two about them. I spent part of my life, several years ago, working with people trying to recover and come out of a cult. Very difficult thing for them, even if the cult wasn't a violent thing. But there's some like Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons that coming out of the cult meant you were going to be ostracized to the max. And see that what happens is split up families. If you are not, if your family overall is Trump, and you come along and say, I can't stand Trump, I ain't voting for Trump, they have to ostracize you. But they're that passionate about this man. June 20th, that's today. And I put out a prophecy, a prediction about this date. The exact wording was on or about June 20th. So let's see what happens with this rally in the middle of the racist police brutality protest, and more importantly, in the midst of this pandemic. I don't wish anybody any harm, but I'm going to sit and watch this play out. My friends, if you find yourself not able to deal with criticism toward Trump, you're a cult member, deal with it. And if you need some help coming out of that cult, I'll be glad to help you. I'm not a Biden lover. I'm not a Hillary lover. You don't have to worry about that. But I'm not a Trump lover either. So if you find yourself getting all tense because somebody posts negative about Trump, if you find it bothers you to that level, if you find that any of that, and it's just, if you find yourself just jumping with glee over anything in regards to Trump and this bullshit, then you're a cult member. So if you would like some help to balance your thought out, and it's not a matter of turning you against anybody. It's not a matter of turning you right or left. It's a matter of saying, you got a problem. You've fallen into a cult, and you need to get balanced in the way you're looking at things, because you're not. And that can be on either side, but it's very predominantly on Trump supporters' side. So, and I'll make it clear, I'm not opposed to everything Trump's done. I'm not opposed to some things that he's done I agree with. But it's human, and I'm going to call out his humanness, just like I would with any of them. I never like to listen to Obama talk. I certainly didn't like Hillary. So I'm not making this a right-left thing. That's what Trump does. Trump creates this division, and you fell for it because every time somebody posts something that is against Trump or says something negative about Trump, if you cringe, if you just feel that you just got to go in there and attack that person as being a libtard and that sort of stuff, you're a cult member. I'll be glad to help you with that because I know a thing or two about cults. And if that's the way you deal with it, you are a cult member. And I'll be, again, you can message me and I'll give you a phone number. We can talk. And I'm not going to bash Trump. We're going to talk about you being a member, being that kind of mentality, and what you can do to recover from it to gain your life back and some sensibilities. Have a good day.